Back, and I'm very pleased to say we are joined by the remarkable Dr. Darren Beattie. He is the founder and editor of an extraordinarily important online news resource. It's called Revolver.News. He has been in previous incarnations a speechwriter and policy advisor to President Donald Trump and a professor at Duke University. He draws on all of these skill sets to bring us some of the most insightful analysis as well as reporting in America today. And we're always delighted to have a chance to catch up with him. Dr. Beattie, welcome back to Securing America.
It's a pleasure to be here again. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, so much in your part of the battle space to cover in so little time. Let's start with the latest on the so called kidnapping plot aimed at the governor of Michigan. Juries recently rendered a very important, um, well, verdict, and I'm anxious to get your thoughts on what it says about both the prosecution's case and the larger story that it may suggest about what happened on January 6th as well.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm thrilled with this verdict. It amounts to a partial, I wouldn't say profound, I would say partial humiliation of the Justice Department. It's an occasion of justice, really, if not optimism, because optimism presupposes some kind of ultimate accountability for those who put this sham together in the first place. But
Okay,
the
so
verdict,
remind us about the sham and the
yes.
prosecution's case and give us the background.
Well, I mean, there's so much going on with the sham, but the bigger picture is a bunch of sort of uh, hapless folks were charged with extraordinary crimes of plotting to kidnap the governor. In some storylines, they even wanted to kill her. They wanted to leave her in a boat in the middle of Lake Michigan. There are all kinds of bizarre side stories to it, but it's presented as this big plot to kidnap the governor. The media went wild with it, and it became the kind of pretext for this larger narrative that anyone associated with Trump, which, by the way, these guys weren't even Trump supporters, but anyone who was associated with Trump was a domestic terrorist. The governor of Michigan, Whitmer, commented on it in a politicized fashion. It was a heavily politicized thing.
And
And the
remind us the
case,
timing of the revelations of
yeah,
this
the
case.
timing was, nothing suspicious whatsoever. The timing was in October of of
2020,
2020.
the
Not not
immediate
a
run
not a
up to the election.
not a
Just a
special
coincidence, of course.
in a state that is totally inconsequential to the outcome of a presidential
Exactly.
election, of course, Michigan.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so there are all
So
of
the
these.
verdict came down, and there were, I guess, four people being prosecuted at the time. How did that
Right.
render
So we have
itself?
two not guilty and two they just didn't really reach a decision at all. And my understanding is that the Department of Justice is deliberating over whether to charge them again or just let them go. I'm hoping they'll let them go to spare themselves an additional embarrassment, but we'll see how it goes. And it's
So
important
that
to
would have been a
yeah,
hung jury, meaning the jury,
right,
somebody was holding out one way or the
exactly,
other. So
exactly.
if they were to bring it back, start over, they would presumably run into some of the same problems that they did in the last go around. And you were all over this, Darren, at Revolver.News, making the argument that this was profoundly suspicious, not least because of the direct involvement of the FBI in what seemed to be a classic example of entrapment. Talk about that quickly, if you would.
Right. So just some additional points of context here. So the case started to unravel quite early on. The case unraveled when it became clear when we first reported on it at Revolver.News, it was clear that five of the 26 so-called plotters were either federal agents or informants. That number increased steadily throughout the course of the trial and plateaued at 12. So 12 out of the 26 so called plotters turned out to be either actual federal agents or informants. Now, what's even better is we got to know a bit about the character of these agents and informants as well throughout the course of the trial. Just to give your audience a taste, one of the lead agents, not informants, but actual agents, employee of the FBI, one of the lead agents on this case was arrested in the middle of it because he beat the hell out of his wife on the way back from a swingers party. So that was one guy, a real champion. The other guy, who was the other lead agent on this case, was prevented from testifying in the trial. And the reason for that is that he was moonlighting this side business of cybersecurity, and he promoted this cybersecurity firm through a pseudonymous Twitter account that leaked private and confidential details pertaining to the case in Michigan and other cases that this particular agent was involved in. One of their key informants, who was actually an informant for decades and who was paid a large sum of money and took an active role in this so called plot, paying people money, making suggestions of people to do things, driving people around, all sorts of things like this. Well, the government turned on its own key informant in the middle of the case. They slapped him with a gun charge. And I suspect part of the reason that they did that was to prevent him from testifying on behalf of the defense or testifying in trial altogether. And that was a successful effort. And that was part of a larger plan. Just one quick addendum to this. Thankfully, there were no convictions in this case, but it's actually a remarkable thing that there weren't, because so much information was hidden from the jury. So much information pertaining in particular to the malfeasance and infiltration level of the FBI was hidden from the jury. And the
Dr. Beattie,
jury must have smelled something fishy anyway, and they made the
smelled a
right
rat
call.
for sure.
Yeah.
Lots of rats, I guess. Dr. Beattie, hold on just for a moment. We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, I want to ask you about the special agent in charge of this whole enterprise and what he went on to do, and a little bit more about what flowed from all of that. We're going to continue this conversation with Dr. Darren Beattie of Revolver News right after this.